Hey there, fantasy lovers! Welcome back to Frith Guild Podcast, where today we dive into the thrilling journey of Volke in chapters 31 to 35 of the Frith Chronicles. Watch as Volke's extraordinary abilities intensify, filling movements through the ground, manipulating water, and facing breathtaking combat. We'll witness heart-pounding moments, loyalty sworn, powerful enemies, and surprising alliances. Plus, an unforgettable celebration where everyone's after Volke's favorite arena changes, marriage proposals, and a deadly assassin. Subscribe and hit the bell for more epic adventures and deep dives into your favorite fantasy worlds. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild Podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host, Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapters 31 through 35 of Warlord Arcanist. And before we get started in today's episode, we do want to thank everybody for listening. And if you could give us a like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, literally anything that you could do for us would be helpful. Also want to remind everybody that the link for the Frith Chronicles Wiki link is in the description section below, along with Shammy's Capital Station Discord server. And that place has been kind of getting a lot more exciting lately. There's a lot of people joining, so hop on in on the discussion. And then lastly, we have just a couple book announcements. I know as of the air date of this episode, we have about 2 weeks before Demon Card Enforcer 3 comes out. So if you haven't had a chance yet to watch John Stovall's interview and talk about the Demon Card Enforcer 3, then go ahead and go on over to that video and catch up on what to expect from that. And with that, we'll get into chapter 31 today, Forever Loyal.
We pick back up Volke still in his endless training as he grows to master his powers. He's figured out that he can feel people through the ground, and based on how they shift their weight, he's able to tell what they're going to do. If they step a certain way or shift a certain way, they're probably going to lunge or parry or fancy start fighting things that I didn't understand, but sounded cool. He is sparring with Zaxxas, and as he attempts to use his powers, pretty much creates a sinkhole that encapsulates the whole courtyard. They're able to get Zaxxas out. They kind of like dig him out, and Zaxxas is all trying to brush it off like, oh, I was about to get out anyway. I was going to fight my way out and punch it in the face or something like that.
I love how Zelfrey during this part is basically coaching Volke of how not to crush Zaxxas anymore. And it's like, don't panic. Just do the thing.
Undo the thing you just did. Whatever you did, undo it. As Zaxxas is recovering, Volke is also realizing that in addition to earth, he can actually manipulate water as well. And going about the same thing, loses control a little bit, ends up manipulating a whole tub of water and emptying the whole thing. So he hasn't mastered the finesse part of it, but he's at least coming to terms with what he can and can't do. While he's taking a bath, Adele just actually surprises him, and I feel like Adele just frequently surprises him in the bathroom. So it seems to be a theme, but he is come to thank him for finding a way to get his mom and his sister there. And he does ask Volke to spare his siblings. If possible, please avoid killing them. He doesn't feel like they're as entrenched in evil as his dad is. He's pretty shocked when Volke agrees to this. And then after the fact, he mentions, oh, by the way, the assassin trying to kill you is probably my sister. So if you could not kill her, it'd be helpful.
I bet Adele just didn't expect Volke to just agree on the spot, 0 questions asked, just let it go. So I'm pretty sure this is why he's so surprised about, like,
Yeah, Volke was probably thinking they were all like fancy researchers like Thiessen or Adalgis. He's like, oh, I'll break into the lab and I won't kill them. And then it's like, oh, I might actually be fighting one of them.
And this is where chapter 32, 18th celebration comes up. And we find out that not only is Adelgis's sister trying to assassinate Volke, but she's also a Whiteheart Arcanist. And we all know that Volke does not like Whitehearts, as kind of flashback to when he first met Luther and almost got killed by a Whiteheart. Volke starts to ask Adelgis some more questions, kind of getting a better idea of who Venya and Yevon are as his siblings. And when Adelgis is like, I really don't know. They're there's that kind of like, wait, what do you mean you don't know your siblings? And he's like, well, they're a lot older than me, and they kind of kept to themselves anyway, so I don't really know them. Like, we meet for the holidays, and that's about it.
Christmas and Easter, and you don't really see it much in between.
So Yevon, he is a Sibyl Arcanist, but we do find out that his Eldrin had died at some point, so there's that. At least we know he's not currently bonded, or potentially currently bonded. And then he's like, well, but he's trying to kill me, but she's just a White Heart Arcanist. They don't have any significant powers that could kill me, and it's not like I have to be worried about poison or anything like that. And then Del just is like, well, don't you remember like the whole APOC dragon and making weapons from it? And knowing my dad, he's given her something from the APOC dragon to kill you with, so...
Yeah, decent plans things. If she's coming to kill Volke, there's a plan. He's not just like, oh, here's a stick, go poke him with it. Like, it is a well thought out endeavor.
Right. And then Volke's like, crap, I shouldn't have been so like naive about this. Later on down the road, Volke is kind of starting to learn how to delegate tasks, and he does tell Adelgis to keep his main focus on Thiessen. Don't worry about his sister, don't worry about Callisto, don't worry about Marcus. Basically, keep focus on the current and most threatening problem, or the closest alligator to the boat, essentially, of finding Thiessen or knowing when Thiessen is going to be going to Thronehold. Now, next we get another training montage for the next 4 days until the day before his birthday. And I imagine these Greenkeepers probably absolutely loathe Volke so much, because now they have to fix everything that he broke and churned up and did things with. The picture that we get is just Volke is looking out in the courtyard and everything is destroyed. Just bushes are destroyed, benches are destroyed, the earth's all rocky and jagged and just all over the place.
He's not endearing himself to the...
Especially to the people that he probably feels the most guilty towards, the servants. Like, he's like, oh crap, somebody's probably got to fix this later. The day of his birthday, he basically is told he doesn't have to worry about anything. The party's not until later that evening, so just kind of hang out, relax. He wakes up pretty late, gets a good amount of sleep. He wakes up with clothes already laid out for him because he's a child and that he needs his clothes laid out for him. He goes and puts them on first thing, which I'm very confused with, because Volke has proven that he is unable to keep clothes clean, especially not destroying them with his magma magic.
He's just like that little kid that wears a white t-shirt to a barbecue restaurant, and you know the mom's just sitting there like, yeah, this is not going to go well.
The inevitable is going to happen. With the description of the shirt that he has, is got stars on the buttons, and it basically reminds us all of Luther's cape. And turns out Eviana was the one that gave him this for his birthday, and she wanted to give him something special and something personal to Volke versus all of the things that he's probably going to receive at his birthday party once they get downstairs. So Volke and Eviana are matching. They have their own like nightmare magic clothes on, and they get downstairs and they meet up with Ilya and Zaxis, and they're all dolled up, and Ilya's got a piece of a Forsyth's feather on her, and Zaxis has a tuft of hair from Nicolin from Ilya, and then Nicolin rolls up with a vest, and Forsyth rolls up with a little hat that goes on his head and bangles around his legs. Like, oh my, these guys are all dapper AF.
It's super cute.
Like, almost overload.
I absolutely love it though. And that
I just like,
yes.
Ilya's dress had it was pure white with silver streaks in it. Like, that's amazing. I love it. I love the detail, the small things like that Shami does in her books. it may not be an extremely important thing, or growing used to having to be very meticulous or understanding that authors use words for reasons and they don't just put them in there. And the reason for this is to show like her Eldrin, showing off her personality. And again, just the meticulous way that she talks about it. She doesn't have to, but again, I love it. I love the way she describes it, and in this particular scene.
Yeah, I really appreciate it as well. It just brings a lot of character out that you don't always get out of Ilya or Forsyth. Nicklin is always a character, so he's add to the expected, but it is very nice to kind of see a little personality flourish. That brings us to chapter 33, which is gifts, and let's get this party started. So the Frith Guild essentially are acting as bodyguards. They're wandering around, but mostly just trying to vet out and see potential assassin options. The rulers are bringing trinkets as gifts. They're bringing statues, star shards. Odin, of course, made him a friendship bracelet. This one now includes gold thread for essentially god tier. Adelgis's family hasn't shown up yet, but Volke is looking out for them. And we do also get Gravekeeper William showing up, and this very cute moment of Eviana essentially meeting Volke's parents. And it's her trying to make a good impression, and you just get that feel of like, she is literally a princess and is doing her best to impress a Gravekeeper because she understands how important it is to Volke.
I love how, and again, there's just some of these scenes are just so great because she describes Eviana being behind Volke, kind of timid at this point of meeting Gravekeeper William, and like you were saying, or the nervousness that Eviana was going through of meeting him, and he, you know, like you said, again, he's a Gravekeeper versus a princess, and she's the nervous one.
Yes,
you know, speaks volume.
It's in a fancy party. Like, this is something she is familiar with. Gravekeeper, this is probably the fanciest party he's ever been to. So, like, she is. It just speaks to kind of the affection towards Volke. Eventide also has a new guild pendant that has been imbued with Atlas Turtle magic. So if you turn it on, it creates a nice little barrier.
Let's try not to lose this one. This one can do things.
This one is important. And it is now time to socialize. So Volke is making his way around. Everybody is putting their requests in, and most of these requests are, can you change the terrain? Can somebody marry you? Everybody is really just trying to look out for their own country or their own good. And we do run into one odd little fellow who's wandering around, and we find out that he is a trash dragon or king.
Trash dragon.
And he tells Volke that he knows of an underwater castle that sounds oddly similar to the one that Volke has been dreaming of, but that he doesn't have the magic needed to get in. So, very curious, if this wasn't something where it's a dream that Volke has, you would almost think it's a trap, but the fact that it's a dream makes you feel like how would he have this information? So, a whole lot of questions around who he is and where he comes from and kind of what he has to offer, because we don't get a really good feel for what side he's on. Eviana does come and save him. They essentially shadow step up onto the rooftops and are listening in on everyone's conversations at this point. We have Riker and Karna talking. Riker is essentially thanking Karna for helping to train him. Karna actually catches Volke and Eviana eavesdropping, and they get a little scolding from her, which is funny. We have Hex and Vethika together. Ilya is showing some effort and talking with Fane. And then we have Volke and Eviana finally really confessing their feelings to each other. It seems like this really great moment. She says she has another special gift she wants to give, so she leaves to go get the gift, and Volke is hit by something.
They're done. Chapter 34, Ven Rover. Volke is just chilling, getting a break finally, and as Eviana is gone to go get his last gift, which is essentially a hairband so that she can mark Volke as hers.
Of course, she's got a claim.
Right. She's done that quite a few times already, but he needed official that he's got her hairband on his arm, his wrist. Volke is cut across the throat with a dagger, and now he's essentially trying not to bleed out while not killing the assassin, because the assassin is Adelgis' sister. He already pledged that he wouldn't do that. He falls down the roof. He pretty much hits every balcony as he's falling down off of the roof of the third story. And as he's trying to keep his hand over his throat to keep from bleeding out, he remembers that he can't asphyxiate because, again, rocks don't need to breathe. He's luring her away from the party so that she doesn't get trapped and killed by somebody else. And he thinks quick on his feet, gets her sucked into the ground as her white heart is dropping his illusion. He goes and stabs Volke with his antlers because Volke just is attracted by antlers to his midsection.
Antlers, talons, he just loves being just stabbed through by things.
Right, and again, we just have this flashback to the Endless Buyer when he gets stabbed by another white heart. This is not the creature that he should bond to, okay? If ever there was another option, not a white heart. Volke promised that he would not kill Venya or any of Adelgis' siblings, but he did not extend that to their Eldrune, and ends up taking the white heart out. His name is Arthur. And just as Zelfrey is coming around the corner, Arthur dies, and she's no longer a arcanist. And Zelfrey's about to attack and kill her, does some cool rock manipulation, and throws her up out of the way before Zelfrey hits her with some shadows from the Twilight Dragon. And Volke is like still trying not to bleed out during this whole situation. And Zelfrey actually hits him with a third step of the pillar to get him to calm down because he's starting to like produce magma. And Terracotta just comes barreling in because he's like, okay, I think something might not be going on very well right now. Let me go see what's actually happening.
I don't like the sound of you gurgling on your own blood. That's usually not a good thing.
I gave you your space, but you know what? I think you might need my help now. Volke gets taken to Gilly, thankfully, to help heal him. And Odeon comes barging in there like, what the hell? Harry Potter, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? He came in with that kind of like energy, okay? Zelfrey knows something about Odeon's past, and so does Odeon, because Odeon actually mentions that Zelfrey is renegade.
Those rumors get around.
Yeah, I mean, I know Zelfrey was famously well known for being the Faceless, but like, I wonder if Odeon knows that that's who Zelfrey was. As Zelfrey and Odeon are beating their chests at each other, Gilly goes full doctor mode, and he's like, just get the hell out of here if you're not going to be patient and quiet and let him heal like he needs to. We do find out Odeon's backstory is that he bonded to the Twilight Dragon by killing the Twilight Dragon's previous Arcanist. We already kind of knew that because he second bonded, but Odeon is in his like late 20s at this point, and the person that bonded to the Twilight Dragon first was like 16. Like, not any red flags at all or anything. It's totally normal.
No red flags in this whole story.
No.
Like, we just die by killing off our previous ruler when we feel like somebody else could do better.
Odeon's pretty much like, look, as far as we're concerned, I mean, that's completely normal. Young Arcanist bonds to Twilight Dragon. Older male kills young Arcanist before they can have a chance to really like get their powers. And then new Arcanist bonds to Twilight Dragon. Like, that's just the normal.
That does bring us to chapter 35, World Serpent Imbuing. Zelfrey knows that Volke was protecting Vinay, and because he's like, you know how you were kind of doing this thing for Adelgis, maybe you could do this thing for me and spare Linus. Linus thinks Zelfrey betrayed him, which is what led to the whole beatings and almost killing. And Volk brings up, like, hey, I don't really think, like, Ilya's going to be okay with this. She kind of wants Callisto dead. And Zelfrey says, well, if he's got a death mark, I'd be happy to take it for him. He feels like he left Callisto out there and is responsible for him. So it's a lot of intricate weaving of trying to protect people while also knowing they're serving the Autarch. We do also get this moment where Volk essentially realizes by becoming God tier, Zelfrey now reports to him, so he can make Zelfrey do things, which I don't think he really realized before, that, like, even though Eventide was like, hey, the guild is kind of going to follow you now, he didn't quite put two and two together that, like, oh, that means that, like, I can tell these people what to do.
That student to master relationship, or student to mentor, however you want to look at it. And of course, Volk never connected the dots.
I don't think I would have.
I definitely would not have, because even Adele just was like, you realize Odeon swore his fealty to you, therefore his army is sworn to you. I don't think it ever clicked, because he never viewed the guild, even after he got his pendant. He never viewed the guild as below him, or Eventide as below him, even though she's, oh, I'm your second command, that kind of thing. She's made her remarks, but
he always seemed to be like, you were an advisor, not as much of like a reportee. Eventide does tell Volk that essentially they knew Vinay was coming, but they wanted to test the Javan's magic, because the Javan was supposed to be able to sense invisibility and such, and they really wanted to see kind of what their capabilities were. Volk does ask to be able to go capture Vinay, essentially like, hey, this is probably one, the easiest way to protect her, and two, there's a lot of really useful information that we could get out of her. There also is a conversation of who would take up being the next God tier arcanist, and Eventide pretty much looks around the guild and says, hey, there's not really anyone here who's willing to kill their Eldrin, so we need to be on the lookout for people that aren't bonded that could potentially serve us as another God tier arcanist. As Volk is leaving, he does run into Jose, and Jose brought star shards. He's got Adelgis with him, and they decide that essentially they are going to make trinkets for the guild out of Felicity's shell, with the Nightmare sword and a shield around a 12-point star being imbued onto a pendant, or not a pendant, onto a ring. They didn't want to do guild pendants, so they'll now have these rings of people that are loyal to Volk. So there's kind of a cliffhanger there on what gets processed, but they are imbuing trinkets for the guild and those who have sworn fealty. And that brings us to the end of the chapters. We don't really have too many new ones on the bestiary.
all right, since we have had a bestiary in a little bit, we do today, we're going to go over the White Heart, but before that, I do want to make mention that there were a few guilds that did offer gifts to Volk. We have the Trapper Guild with the Guildmaster Renshaw. We have the Shikara Guild, which is essentially the Architect Arcanists. They make magical objects for travel or housing, and they are operated by Guildmaster Tillis, who is a mermaid arcanist. And we have the Southern Flyer Guild, which is Guildmaster Jonah, and they are some kind of like performers, because we have entertainment. This is something that was mentioned earlier, that they are providing entertainment for the evening. And we also get mention of a Finders Guild, which is the Trash Dragons Arcanist is a part of. So he kind of joins in under the Southern Flyer Guild, but he's actually a part of the Finders Guild. And speaking with Shammy, I'm going to try to do a little bit of like fanfic lore and see what she thinks about it. Maybe we'll be able to present it, because I like guilds. They make me happy so much. I don't know why, but
It would be fun to have a nice little adventuring group to go with.
exactly.
All right, so moving on to the White Heart. The White Heart is described as being a beautiful ivory deer with golden antlers and hooves. They're very majestic and often have golden or blue eyes in a regal posture. To bond with them, you essentially play hide and seek. the white heart goes nuts. Everyone goes and looks for it. If you find the white heart, you get to bond with it. That's one of the more simple and one of the more fun ones that we've seen. They are tier 3, and they do reproduce through progeny, so often in thriving forests and breeding infrequently, only every 5 years. Their evocation is a mist, which is thick and often opaque, so it's pretty much harmless, except unless you have any sort of passive ability that will let you see through the mist, it's hard to see. They are able to manipulate sound, so either adjusting it to be much louder than it actually is, or muting it entirely, which plays to a lot of their stealth capabilities. Their augmentation is invisibility, so both themselves and the Arcanist can become invisible. It doesn't hide any noises they make, but they do have their manipulation to help adjust what people may or may not hear. Their imbuing is known as Mental Fortress, so it often creates items that grant immunity to mind control effects. Their aura is Forgotten, which we do actually remember what it means. It's their ability to shroud a eerie white fog, and we do get wisps of that fog make their way into the ears of those who are nearby, causing them to forget about the White Heart and about the Arcanist, pretty much like they never encountered them. So it adds to their stealth effect, really, at that point, manipulating memory, which is super cool. Once the aura ends, the memories gradually return over time, so they will remember at that point, but because it's slow to return, at that point the White Heart would have been able to get away. They do have an innate ability of immunity for mind control effects. They can also hover or step a few inches above the ground, and this allows them to avoid leaving tracks on the ground. They can carry people through this, but the Arcanists themselves do not gain this ability. Their true form is a virtue type, so you have to embody the ideals of friendship. This is trust, loyalty, stepping up when somebody needs help. And once they achieve their true form, their hooves become enshrouded in mist, and the antlers become translucent. They also gain true form ability of flight, so they walk on air. They can go a lot higher than just kind of the few inches that they normally are. It doesn't really require any specific weather to do, but it is often known as cloud stepping as they're moving on top of mist. They are often considered things of legend, so they're very hard to find, hence why their try of worth is hide and seek. And they tend to stay away from the public eye. They're often very stealthy. Their magic is really around sneaking, and they're based along European legends of uncatchable white deer that people often claim to see.
So do you think that Waldo is a better hide-and-seek player, or the White Heart would be?
The problem is they play the same role. Like, they're both the to be found. Like, I don't know who well-known searchers are. Like, is Dora there? Like I don't know who else is out looking for things.
Maybe Carmen Sandiego?
Carmen Sandiego would be a good one. So yeah, it's a really cool skill set, very unique, very useful.
I like how focused and intent it is.
It is. It's very narrow range.
Not like Alex Kellum when he's trying to decide what he wants to do. He's like, I'm going to be a jack of all trades.
I'm going to have shadow magic. I'm going to up my shadow magic. I'm going to have this kind of magic.
I'm going to have laser beams. All right, and again, we want to remind everybody that in about 2 weeks we have Demon Card Enforcer coming out, so definitely be looking for that. And then, Scott, did you have anything else you'd like to add this week?
No, we got Happy Valentine's Day coming up. We got lots of good things coming.
We do, and you know what? If you're a fan of the series and you don't have all the books, you can always ask. I mean, we just had Christmas not too long ago, so if there's any books that you didn't get, you can always ask for your Valentine's Day gift.
There's new ones coming out. Shammy puts out like 2 books a month, so there's always new stuff coming.
All right. With that, we'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah.